Coming up on tonight's edition of The Catching Pen, we relive a massive night at Wentworth Park for the TAB $1 Million Chase. Feature Racing now heads to the festival state as we focus on the TAB Adelaide Cup. And we are joined by Corey Smith from the Meadows to chat all things Phoenix and Top Gun.
Welcome along to another edition of The Catching Pen. We'll be looking back obviously over what was a big weekend here in Sydney with the $1 Million Chase, and we'll be looking forward, as Tommy said there, in the preamble to the Adelaide Cup, which is, the heats are being run on Friday. Jacko, good evening to you.
Yeah, good evening to you, Jace. Terrific weekend just gone, of course, the TAB $1 Million Chase, but I'm not sure about you, but it's quite cool in the studio.
Yes, a scarf might be necessary.
I might have to put this on.
Yeah, I would.
What do you think, Patch?
It's a little drafty.
Good?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, that's enough for me, boys. I'll see you next week, but wind up whatever you got. Put it right here, get it out of the way so we can move on with the show. But, devastating weekend, to be honest. But the racing was hot, as we know. Thursday was really good at Angle Park, and then on to Saturday night at Wentworth Park, and keen to delve through it all as we get on with the show. And if Jacko leaves that scarf on, I'm out.
I think sporadically there's going to be other little surprises for you throughout the show, Pat. So, hang on to your brief. There wasn't a lot of news to get through, it has to be said, this week, Jacko, but we can't not have a news segment, so here we go.
The Catching Pen News is brought to you by Darwin Greyhounds, racing every Sunday and selected Wednesdays.
I said probably a case of no news is good news in the greyhound world, isn't it? But yeah, look, just three topics of conversation, I guess, to kick the show off. Zipping Kyrgios, his retirement plans have been put on hold post his narrow second in the MDC, and just looking ahead to the blacktop heats for Friday Arvo. Jacko, he's been drawn into box number 1 in a race that looks pretty winnable for him given the perceived speed map, but we get to see Kyrgios at least for another couple of months anyway. Which
I think is really good for the sport, particularly with the form that he's currently in. He's arguably the informed greyhound here in New South Wales. He was outstanding on Saturday night. Probably wins in another stride or two, but yeah, he'll go around this week in the blacktop to try and make it back-to-back blacktops, and then I believe maybe head down to Melbourne for the Hume Cup over 600, and that could be his swan song down there. So good to see him continue on.
Yep. The second news item, we have been speaking about the Irish Derby obviously over the past few weeks, and that was wrapped up over the weekend, and Born Warrior took it out in all the way fashion from box number 5. Patch, I'll come to you for a comment here. Quite an outstanding achievement by the family here. Jennifer O'Donnell trained the winner. Her mother and her father have both previously trained winners of the Irish Derby.
Yeah, and didn't they enjoy the win there over the weekend of Born Warrior? And just doing some reading before, there were some question marks whether he'd be able to stand up at this sort of class. He didn't start favourite for the race. He was 11-2 in the old as they used that formula over there, Wiz. And in the end, Too Good was able to hold on. And geez, saw some clips on Twitter over the weekend from people getting up and about it. Shelburne Park, it's clearly a party atmosphere over there. The Irish certainly know how to do it well, and I'm sure they're in full throttle after this.
Yeah, indeed. 11-2 in the old. I love that, Patch. That's a shout out to Daff there. And the third topic, not a lot to really discuss here, but the carnival at Coonamble is up and about. Good luck to the club and everyone that's made their way up to Coonamble over the weekend. I'm sure it'll be a huge shindig, and if you've got one going around, I hope it gets the cash for you. And Thursday night at Albion Park, it was a Masters race, Jacko. It was a masterful performance as well by No Regrets, trained by the gentleman, Dr. George Clegg, who does a great job and would have one of the best strike rates of any of the trainers up there in Queensland. But this was a big performance by a girl who probably better known over a bit more ground.
Yeah, she was terrific late here. She just didn't really seem to be going anywhere in this.
Lita looked home here. I had something on it, I've got to say.
And yeah, wow. She's 3 or 4 off. You never would have thought. And then she's come home very strongly, but in saying that, the leader did get very tired late. So it could be a little bit deceptive, but yeah, terrific win there.
There was an exceptional performance at Sandown on Thursday as well from Zohar Bale. And Patch, I'll come to you for comment here. 29.32 on the clock is an impressive run. Geez, if you had something on this the week before, you had to back up here, because his running defeat the week prior was as good as this.
Huge. He's got some serious talent, this boy. And 29.32 overall looks impressive as it is. But you mentioned the run prior, and the run home is just as big, given the Isolink splits that we've now got access to, breaking that last section in half into split 4 and 5. He's had the best of the night 2 weeks in a row. So he's got a huge motor. He's still probably building a profile for himself, but what's he won now? 4 of 11 starts. He's young and clearly destined for racing over 600 and 700 metres. So keep an eye on him. It's going to be a real exciting watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And just slightly off topic, but I'll come back to you, Patch. There's a really interesting race at Sandown tomorrow night over the 700 where we get to see Big Opal Rock step up to that trip for the first time. I'm led to believe that he's trialled in amazing fashion in between his last run and his upcoming run.
Yeah, he has. He obviously went around last Thursday night, and we haven't seen him really loosen the shackles yet over the 600 metres. There was one big run on a Sunday, but in terms of last Thursday night, he had one hit out on Sunday after the last, and he went like a dead-set rocket over the hand slip. He went 22.60 something home in 10.01, which no one on the track has ever seen before. So the ability is all there. I know it can be a bit frustrating for his trainer Mario Baganti, but let's see what he can do over 700 metres. Hopefully it gets clear and we see the real Big Opal Rocks cut loose.
Yeah, he's certainly an enigma, that's for sure. All right, that wraps up the first segment. To get us to a break, our Every Dog Has Its Day segment for this week features the win of Verstappen at the Gardens, and what made this quite unique is her first win back, having had a litter of 12 pups to Fernando Bale.
Worth the weight, 8 count, Kingston Hound to the bend, and Verstappen eventually worked its way to the front and drove clear, and Verstappen too good.
All eyes were on Wentworth Park on Saturday night as the nation's best converged on the Harbour City for the TAB $1 Million Chase, supported by a big night of exciting chasing action. The first of the major features was the Young Star Classic. Boom Pup Zipping Orlando made it a perfect 8 from 8, smashing a sensational lineup and affirming his status as one of the hottest youngsters in the country.
When Zipping Orlando went through a needle-eye gap, and he's dashed to the lead now from Fat Boy's Charm. They're followed by Bandit Jane. Zipping Orlando clear, 8 out of 8. He is perfect.
Seen more of you than my missus lately, Min. I don't know. Talk me through it through your eyes.
Oh, that run was brilliant.
He worked across the blue early, and from watching from behind the box, he's got his way over to the fence, and it was just hold your breath through the pen, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's, like you said before the race, he's just like he's got a jockey on him. He just knows how to race.
You had a young dog like this with that much track smarts?
No, never had a... Nah, he's just, for an early age dog, he's just brilliant in a field.
All right, still plenty to come. Good luck, Min.
From the young to the old, next up was the lucrative Masters Meteor for the veteran chasers. On paper, it looked a race in two between class runners Fire Legend and Gypsy Yankee. But when the lids flew open, the former made it a one-act affair. The Grand Campaigner registering win 52 at start 1:15.
And Fire Legend's race right away around the home turn. He's 8 lengths in front. Fire Legend in a Masters Meteor Blitz.
Mark Moroney, it was sensational, wasn't it?
It certainly was. He was the class runner, but he's had a bad couple of weeks. We were hoping he was spot on, and I pretty well knew that when he went through the first section in 5:44.
Now that we're through the race, just talk us through the injury that he had going into the heat.
Yeah, well, he'd been racing week to week, and I decided not to race him on the Sunday before the heats. I thought I'd be smart and slip him at Grafton, and it rained the night before. The track was real soft, and he strained all his stomach and his hip, and the night before he wasn't going to run. And it was only because it was this race that we brought him, just hoping he'd qualify.
Says something about the dog's tenacity, because that's not his first injury. He's overcome a really bad one to even still be racing.
Yeah, and the two worst injuries he's had are before both $1 Million Masters Meteors. Hey, before we go, can I just... My wife Mel's real crook at home, and, I just wish she was here for it.
Absolutely.
Later in the night, the stayers stepped out in the Group 2 Sydney Cup, and it was the darling of New South Wales staying racing, Super Estrella, who continued her dominant winning streak. the daughter of Fernando Bale and Esparza, has now won 6 on the trot and 32 overall. Her earnings closing in on $450,000.
Around the turn, Super Estrada's clear. She'll win again. An absolute star.
Mate, there's a bit of an air of invincibility about her at the moment.
Yeah, she's just come out of the box so good. Yeah, can't be so
Every time we've had, where you've boxed a dog just knowing that it's going to go out, and if everything goes to plan, she's going to win.
Well, not in group races, no. We might do that at Bulli or Dapto, but certainly not against this sort of company. And I'm not saying I say that, but yeah, you have every confidence in her.
Now that you've knocked that over, have you had a chance to look ahead and think about what might be next for her?
Oh, look, hopefully Top Gun. You're on the panel, aren't you? Yeah.
I am. A sneaky chance she might get through.
Yeah, look, get into that. And look, I'm trying to throw it out there for the Phoenix as well, because I think...
And I think you should.
Yeah, an on-pace, front-running star, and, to get in against those best sprinters and see what she can mix it with them. So, yeah.
Good ride, mate. Keep it going.
Thank you so much. Ta.
There you go, guys. David Smith.
Finally, it was time for the big one, the TAB $1 Million Chase. Punters had trouble finding a favourite, most interest landing on McInerney from the coveted Inside Alley and the king, Zipping Kyrios, one of 3 runners for John and Minnie Flynn, who were also represented by Gatlin and Zipping Alabama. Peter Lagogiani was aiming for his 3rd MDC with French Martini, whilst He's on Fire held the key to the race with his blistering early toe. Meanwhile, the battlers were represented by Joe Comito with Hold Me Up and Jay Opatai, the 19-year-old preparing Anglin Luai, the only greyhound in his kennel.
Racing. He's on fire away brilliantly, spearing straight to the lead from French Martini and McInerney getting up on the rails. Zipping Kyrios into 4th placing now. They're followed by Anglin Luai. Next came Gatlin. Well back is Hold Me Up, and last Zipping Alabama down the back straight, and it's He's on Fire who leads it by 2. McInerney. Zipping Kyrios is running on. They're clear of Anglin Luai. It's He's on Fire at the home corner just from McInerney. Zipping Kyrios in the middle. McInerney hit the front. Zipping Kyrios drives McInerney. McInerney's won the TAB $1 Million Chase.
Talk us through the thrill. Box rise, well away, held his spot. How'd the race pan out through your eyes?
Yeah, he jumped good for him, and the two sort of worked in our favour, but I got a bit scared around that first turn when he got spun sideways. So he's a tremendous dog, and to run down the back like he did and run down the 2 with the lead it had and hold off Zipping Kyrios, who's a tremendous dog in the end, is a wonderful effort.
We've made the point a few times that it was probably an unlucky runner in the Nationals. Was it always the plan to go from there to here? Or?
Yeah, it was. We'd planned that all along. The Nationals gave us a good look at the track, and his run in the Nationals was super. We couldn't have been more proud of him. So he's just come along so nicely. Dad couldn't have kept him in any better shape leading into this race, and Noel's done a tremendous job with all the dogs he breeds, but he's just a super tough dog.
Yeah. Talk us through that as a thrill. I mean, just being asked to train dogs for the Mugavans is one thing, but to win a big race for him.
Yeah, it is. It's a great honour. Noel's such a wonderful bloke, and he's a pleasure to train for, and I'm so glad that we could do this as a group, between my dad and myself and Noel. It's been a brilliant effort.
Yeah, and the missus as well. It's a team effort. She was seen over in the catching room making a bit of a nuisance of herself, but enjoying it as you should. And mate, like I said, it's never one person, it's always a team.
Yeah, exactly. She helps around the kennels. She's always there to catch the dogs or box them at home, and we flew up for the Nationals together, and we've flown up today together, and I couldn't be more proud of all her help, and she's just as excited as me, so we're a bit lost for words.
How long will it take you to knock the first beer over?
As soon as I lock him up.
Perfect, go enjoy it.
Beautiful, thanks Jason.
Owner Noel Mugovan, mate, you've won a lot of big races. How's that for a thrill?
Oh, look, it's amazing. It is, Jason. It really is. It's you only dream of winning these races, but any big race you're in, you've got to. As I said there before, I wasn't too sure whether I was nervous or whether it was excitement. How my emotions before the race, and then in the race, I got a little bit carried away. But it was just a wonderful thrill, And look. The dogs against, it's been a bad day for New South Wales people with Sydney losing, and so we've taken it back to Victoria. So Geelong won down there, but look, it's thrilling.
Just the journey with the dog. I mean, it's a long way from tonight to when he was a good dog in Melbourne, don't get me wrong, but you sent him over to Tassie to obviously try and get a bit of confidence, knock over some easier targets. $1 Million Chase, but a long way from your thoughts then.
Oh, most definitely. And look, a lot of thanks, goes, Robbie Britton had the dog initially, and we made the decision after a number of races, we'll send him to Tassie and get a bit of confidence. He was just getting knocked around a bit, and he had he had ability, but he just wasn't being able to show it. So going over there was fantastic. And then when we decided to bring him back, the person that Robbie is, and he's so excited tonight, Robbie himself, but he said, when we bring him back, Brendan can, because Blake's done so much work with him, and it's turned out that way that, it's wonderful for young Blake and sensational for Brendan, who puts, he's driven up here for the last, 4 out of the last 5 weeks. 10 hours up, 10 hours back. So it's, yeah.
Mate, life's full of roller coasters. It's fair to say that you guys have obviously had some sadness over the past few weeks as a family, so this will be a nice fill-up.
Oh, most definitely. It's it is. If I look up too much, I probably could see Mary looking down on me, but, Mary had wonderful success on this track, winning the Paws of Thunder with Modern Assassin, and Mary was very much one in the background, but I'm putting her up in the spotlight tonight because there's something there with this dog tonight that there was a little bit more than, and I'm sure Mary's had a lot to do with that. And but yeah, it has been a bit sad over the last couple of months. But yeah, tonight does put a smile on people's faces, and yeah.
All right, so there's the jubilant owners and connections from the $1 Million Chase there Saturday at Wentworth Park. I'll come to you first for comment, Patch. First of all, just a couple of things off the top. We say it over and over again, but if you come on the show, you get a nice bump along. And Noel Muggovan, of course, was a guest on here 2 weeks ago. Now he's knocked off an MDC. And just a clarification, there was a story in the Recorder yesterday from David Brash, who does an unreal job. But just suggesting that McInerney had been offered the tab slot, and that's 100% incorrect. We have spoken to a number of connections just about their intentions and just checking the lay of the land, but certainly nothing has been offered to those connections at this stage. But Patch, well, you are, I guess, at home on the couch sucking the thumb. I've got no idea, but talk us through your impressions of the night and the win of McInerney.
Well, sparks flew, that's for sure, and for McInerney, things just turned out exactly how I'm sure Brendan and Blake Purcell would have liked, with his on fire, finding the top, Kyrgios a bit slow to again, and that gave him a bit of room to move off the track, which we know he can. So top win, and hearing Noel speak with Jacko this morning on Going Greyhounds, just crediting the Greyhound strength that he's developed over time. I mean, he started off in Victoria, as we know, and that stint in Tassie just made him, really, because he come back, he developed into a genuine free-for-all class dog, and well, that stage, the Nationals were approaching. We know his first hit out at Wentworth Park was just very, very good, although he was beaten. And since then, he's been admirable. And on this occasion, he's got the breaks and he's been good enough to capitalise on that. And as you touched on, with such an emotional period of time for the McGivens as well. And for Brendan and Blake, who put a lot of hard yards in together. And knowing Brendan, he's one of the great characters that you see on a greyhound track. So happy for what they've been able to achieve. And again, for Noel, it's been decades of breeding success that has culminated in this win from McInerney, and it won't be the last from his breed, that's for sure. And a domination as well by Fernando Bale.
Tasmania's record in this race, I know he's not a Tasmanian bred dog, but again, he was trained there at some stage. Of course, the dog that ran second in the very first edition behind Mystic Riot was from Tasmania, and the winner, Handsome Prince, came from Tassie as well, Jacko. So I don't know whether it's a hidden gem down there that's yet to be discovered, but I'd say there'd be a lot of people fishing around through the top grade ranks down there in Tassie before the next MDC.
Yeah, absolutely. I might just have to be one of them as well, try and find an MDC winner. But yeah, a terrific win and just such a tonic for the Muggovan family, of course. As Noel touched on, he lost Mary, his sister, only a couple of weeks ago, who trained Modern Assassin. His children had a stillborn, and he also lost his brother-in-law all within the last couple of months. So certainly a real tonic for the family. But I did sense a little bit of irony that Patch would have been sitting home licking his wounds, and then McInerney, of course, wins in the red and white colours of the Swans as well. So
absolutely. This is a little bit of a watch party that some of the family had. I can't believe how restrained they are. I'd have been up and about from the top turn, but oh well, they got up and about in the end, loving it. But yeah, great scenes. We really like seeing this sort of stuff. So yeah, well done to all involved. Some of the other highlights on the night, Patch, and I'll come to you again. Super Estrella continued her domination of the staying ranks with a pretty painless win in the Sydney Cup.
Yeah, she was amazing, as she's been for so long now. 6 wins in a row, and she's just continued to develop into the country's best stayer. And throughout those 6 wins, her average winning time has been 41.48, and who would have thought 6 months ago that she'd be setting those sort of times consistently. So she's a dead set star of the staying ranks. And for David Smith, I mean, it's just about turn up and turn the key and watch her go at the moment. He's done a great job. And another big success. We know it wasn't that long ago where he picked up his first Group 1 win, and all of a sudden it's his second. And tell you what, pretty ambitious. And Wiz, you flagged it not too long ago, how you sort of suggested maybe throw into an MDC and see how she goes. And now it's been suggested, or David's open to the idea of her being involved in Phoenix conversations, which is absolutely a great talking point. And wouldn't that be interesting? Yeah, it certainly would. And look, that might not be an option for a top-level stayer each and every year, Jacko, but look, let's not beat around the bush. Take Wow She's Fast out of the equation. The form that Pearl's in at the moment's no better than the other sort of 20, 25 dogs behind Wow She's Fast. And I think I actually asked someone the question during the week, like, sit down and try and pick a Top Gun field at the moment. You'll get that much conjecture because it's a bit of a raffle, waiting for a dog to stand up, put their hand up and say, yeah, I'm ready to take on the best one. So she might not be out of place in a Phoenix. Yeah, absolutely. It's there for the taking outside of Wow She's Fast, and you just never know what the future could hold, particularly with her, like we've seen with Pearl coming on season and things like that. So yeah, it'll be an interesting couple of months. And even though she's a stayer, she's showing genuine 500 metre speed. So if she was to bounce to the front in a Phoenix, it would take a pretty special performance to run her down just with that strength that she'll have late. My highlight, I have to say, for the entire night was the performance of Fire Legend. Not just the win on the night, Jacko, but for everything else that went along with it. I don't know how much of a secret it was going into the heats, because I'm not on social media, quite frankly, but I think it was pretty well known that he was under an injury cloud going into that race. He was fortunate, I guess, in some respects to qualify, but he was a different dog in the final, and it's a testament to Mark. Yeah, absolutely. I spoke to Mark this morning, and the night before the heats, he was 100% certain to be scratched. He was going to be scratched, and then he woke up in the morning and he walked out okay, so he thought, I'll give him a chance and hopefully get through, knowing that I'll have sort of 10 days to get him ready for the final. And he was actually off the back of that issue. He was terrific in the heat. Gypsy Yankee, of course, beat him quite comfortably, but the fact that he was able to run second was quite phenomenal by his standards. And then, yeah, he was a different animal there on Saturday night, straight to the front. And he was probably helped a little bit by the rest of them sort of just jamming up with each other and left him well clear. But whether they would have run him down, I'm not entirely sure anyway. Yeah, and Johnny Corrigan was very quick on the phone after the race to let me know that another Masters media winner for Grafton. They stick together, those Northern Rivers crew. To get us to a break, one of the other features on the card was the MDC Maiden. It was taken out by the favourite, Can You Smoke Them?
Fast from box 2 and will lead down past the judge on Can You Smoke Them, who sticks with her early. Into third placing, Zipping Sterling getting up on the rails, and fourth is False Confidence. They're followed next in the field there by Darchkey. Well back here, Zipping Senorita, and last Miss Songbird off the back straight, and Can You Smoke Them made his move, and he's raced to the lead now from Wilson's Pick, then Zipping Sterling. But around the home turn, it's all the favourite Can You Smoke Them sprinting away, and Can You Smoke Them beat Zipping Sterling by 6.
They're ready. Set racing.
Heats of the Group 1 Tab Adelaide Cup will be run this Thursday, but the biggest name in Australian greyhound racing has already booked her spot in the final. Wow She's Fast lived up to her name once again last week, smashing the track record in the SA v All-Stars Match Race Challenge, bringing up win 15 at start 20.
The best in the land at the moment, though, 6 lengths in front, and she's running some time. Wow She's Fast, all eyes on the clock. She's 6 lengths in front, and the big girl's performing on the big stage. She races away. Oh, this is quick. This is really quick. Stand by. This is a new record.
She peeled a length and a half off Aston Rupi's record there. 29.86, so 29.95 was his previous mark. Yeah, the roadshow just keeps rolling on, Patch. Wow, she's fast. And hey, we said on last week's show, the 250, 230 that Tab were betting, just get involved, because she's now into $1.50.
Yeah, and so she should be. I mean, she was always going to win that match racing series. Box draw is obviously the unknown when we start talking about what the final looks like next week, but doesn't matter what she draws, she's going to be the one to beat. And full credit, I think, as well, is to Cal and Jackie Greeno, who have kept her in cotton wool for such a period of time, just with the attitude of she doesn't have to race her, why race her, and just timing her to perfection when they do want to step her out. And last week was a great example of that, and she'll be cherry ripe for the final, as we know.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Patch touched on, we see it more in the UK and Ireland, Jacko, that those top grade dogs, whereas here in Australia they go around in free-for-alls week to week to get them fitter and whatnot. The genuine, what they call derby dogs overseas, they just don't race in between the big races. You see English Derby, they might go to Sunderland or to a an East Anglian Derby or something like that to get them ready, and then they're off to Ireland, and they only may race 8, 9, 10 times a year, some of them.
Yeah, I guess the issue is you need the right dog that can sort of handle being spaced, might only get one look at a track, whereas others might take a little bit of getting used to. So I think that's probably something that just comes back to the greyhound in itself, and Wow She's Fast obviously handles the travel. She didn't quite succeed up here in Sydney when we saw her over the Easter Egg Carnival and the MDC Carnival, but yeah, she's gone over there, broken the track record. So she's obviously handling Angle Park, and it's going to take something pretty special for something else to beat her next week.
Absolutely. We did just put up a market. Now, if you did get involved with the 250, 230 already, Wow She's Fast, you'd be entitled to have a look at something to maybe just lay off or save with, and we've put together a little bit of a list. The number one seed for me is Mobile Legend. He's a $15 chance. He's been awesome since he came back from a bit of a break, Patch. I know he's never been to Angle Park, but this is a dog capper running you anything on the clock.
Yeah, he's good. I mean, for a long period of time, he promised to be a real high-class sprinter, and he did have a spell. And he's had 5 runs since resuming where he has been pretty good, and you still feel like he's building up to some of his finest work. So good to see him stepping out in a big series like this. Obviously meets the likes of Aston Ulysses and Fernando Mick, and just on Mobile Legend as well. I understand he did go there last week, so he's not going in blind. He has had a look at the Angle Park track, and I know you're quite bullish on his chances and how he might fare up against those ones, Wiz.
Yeah, he goes around in the second heat, race 4, number 1. I thought he was a good thing. The next dog we wanted to highlight was Paddy Wants Pats, and since he's come back from a bit of an injury, Jacko, he's been in really good form, but he is coming off a bit of a setback.
Yeah, he is. He was, I believe, going to come up here to Sydney for the $1 Million Chase. He was going to have a look at the track the week prior to the Sydney qualifiers, and unfortunately wasn't able to come up, so there would have to be a little bit of doubt coming off the back of that, particularly in his heat where he's a very short-priced favourite. I think he was around $1.40 or so against the likes of Alpine Butterfly, Buzz Junkie, Just to Sort. If he is at his top, you would expect him to win that race, but there has to be a little bit of doubt just coming back from that issue.
The next 2 dogs we're going to highlight, they actually go around in the same heat, Zippy Tesla and Giants Flash. We'll have a look at Zippy Tesla first of all. He's an $8 chance, whereas Giants Flash is a $15 chance. And just looking at the market, Patch, I think personally I'd rather be with Giants Flash, just because I think he'll land in front of Zippy Tesla, and he's so strong. I'm not sure Zippy would be able to run him down.
Yeah, you were all over him last week, Giants Flash, and he was very, very good. And yeah, if he was to find the top, all the best to Tesla. But I think Angle Park's a track that can really suit Zippy Tesla. I mean, he needs the room, he needs the gaps, and Angle Park to me just seems like such a great track. They just get around it so well, and there is room for every dog to have a crack. So I think he's every chance, and obviously one of our favourites here on the show, so hoping he goes well. But for Giants Flash, Wiz, you were quite keen on his chances last week when you proved Jacko and I wrong when we went through the predictions for the match race series, and clearly a big danger here, and you'd say probably going to be supported as we get closer to jump time.
Yeah, exactly. What'd you make of his win here, Jacko? I thought everything about it was stylish. We didn't expect him to lead first and foremost, so that was the first shock, but just ran away from the other dog for fun in the end.
Yeah, I think that was the bit that surprised me, was that he was able to lead Just to Sort, and when he did lead, it was pretty much game, set and match then. And And I'm quite like you in that I think he'll settle in front of Zippy Tesla, and he just proved last week how strong he is. And we know Zippy Tesla's very strong, but I'd be surprised if he could run down Giants Flash. Particularly Giants Flash has had the benefit of racing at Angle Park as well.
He has run near enough to the record over 600 there at Angle Park, Giants Flash. And the dog that holds the 600-metre track record, Stout Manelli, also went around in the match race last week. And the guys caught up with Timmy Aloisi afterwards.
Well, we're here tonight with the owner of Stout Manelli here at Angle Park, Tim Aloisi, along with Matt Lehman as well, who's the part owner, and of course in the care of David Gill at the moment. Tim, obviously you trained him here in SA earlier in the year, but decided to take him over to Victoria. What encouraged that decision?
Look, it was a fast dog here, and probably not really after the 3 Cup races we had, there wasn't really much coming up, so we decided to send him to Victoria, and it's probably paid off. Yeah, it definitely has.
He's won a handful of races over in Victoria. Of course, he's a track record holder here at Angle Park over the 595, running 33.68. So some of his form earlier on in the year was electric, wasn't it? It was, yeah. That's probably a reason why we did send him over there. He broke the track record and he was kind of running a quick 500. And I said to Limo, look, he's probably quick enough to go to Melbourne. As much as I would have loved him to stay in my kennel, you know, we always do what's probably right for the dog, and we thought we could probably win a group race over there, and we're lucky enough to do that. Well, he's back here in SA now, still in the care of David, doing a tremendous job, obviously running a slick time tonight of 30 and 20 in the match race challenge. And of course, next week will be big Adelaide Cup Heats here at Angle Park. And of course, that's going to be a big night for him. Obviously, coming out of match race challenge tonight, what were your thoughts on that time? Yeah, look, we weren't sure what he'd do. Yep. Obviously, we've stepped him up to 700, just didn't get it, so we dropped him back to 600. Yep. Dave said, look, we'll put him in the match race. If we get a run, we'll kind of see what splits he runs, and then we'll make a decision on if we think he was going to, when we dropped him back, if he was quick enough to kind of go with the 500-metre sprinters. We're pretty happy after the race chatting with Dave. He's gone 5:22, 17:53, so he's gone the second fastest to the back. So yeah, we're pretty happy, and obviously we'll be back next week. Well, that was the thing. He's known as a middle distance greyhound, but to see that early speed on the clock tonight, 5:22, shows he can begin well out of boxes, and that's very promising over that distance. So obviously there's a lot of positives to take out of that run tonight. The overall time is good, but that 5:22 first split is very promising heading into the Cup Heats, isn't it? It is, because you know you need pace, Angle Park, you need to be out in front, so he has got a bit of pace. He does tend to jump better over 600 on a corner start, but after tonight's run, look, yeah, we'll bring him back next week.
Racing, Harris River got squeezed out at the start.
We start this week's wrap at Ipswich, where the Futurity and Derby finals took centre stage on Saturday night. Up first, it was the girls, and Harris Pandora continued the stellar run of form for trainers Tarquin Neal and Gemma Daly, bringing up win 35 for her litter and almost $190,000 in earnings.
Sober Smart Houdini, third Polly Sport, Samson's, Alana and Godges, but it's all Harris Pandora in the straight. Harris Pandora wraps up the Futurity for Tarquin Neal by nearly 10 lengths.
The boys stepped out 2 races later, and it looked a contest between Young Guns DeFerrin and Black Comanche. However, both found trouble early, leaving former WA sprinter Fergal Manelli out in front for trainer Tony Apap.
The boys laid up 3 wide, 2 away to Ferrin, followed by Casey's Money, Harris Herbie, Black Comanche, and last of all Antonio's Pride. Off the back, Fergal Manelli leads the Derby onto the turn. Over Gold Fillings, boys laid up. It's Fergal Manelli clear, going away, and Fergal Manelli's Derby by 5 lengths over boys laid up.
On the same night, we venture to the west for the WA Bred Championship final at listed level. John Carmody went into the race with the fastest qualifier, Granite Song, and at the finish, class prevailed. The son of Aston Deeby registering his 15th career victory.
From Capito, well back in the field is Hinto. Coming off the back, Firecloud in front. Here comes Granite Song though with a really big run. Jimmy's Decision's getting home hard. Also Scout About in front on the outside, Granite Song. Jimmy's Decision flying, Granite Song. Beat Jimmy's Decision, third Firecloud from Capito.
And finally, we venture to Tasmania on Monday night for the Ladies Bracelet and Breeders' Classic finals. The ladder was a wide open event with plenty of chances, including rails runner Fossil Bluff for MDC winning co-trainer Blake Purcell.
Hearten Up Johnny running third, Blitz Danger, Finlock Cash. A gap then to Twice Bitten, Hot Danger and Wilson last of all. A really good tussle here. Fossil Bluff on the inside, the challengers coming thick and fast. Finlock Cash around the outside and Blitz Danger. Fossil Bluff still in front and will get home.
Okay, so that's a look at some of the feature racing around the country over the weekend. Patch, anything there catch your eye?
Well, a couple of handy wins up there at Ipswich, and doesn't take D Hobby to get back amongst it, winning group races. So congratulations to Dave, who is no doubt transitioning back in the full swing. And Lahara's Pandora, it seems like Tarquin and Gemma taking a couple of those of their greyhounds to the Rising Stars coming up at Albion Park later in the month. So eyes on them for that.
Yeah, they're winning everything at the moment with that litter, Jacko. I'll refrain from asking you about those because we've got vision of a trial. Of course, the Capalaba Cup heats are coming up on Sunday. And Sacred Stance, he had trialled the week before in slightly faster time than this, but 1963 here, Jacko. Just went down on his nose a little bit coming out. And just talking to some of the connections after the race, I think he came out of it with just a little cut on his foot as well, which would have annoyed him a little bit. But he's going to be one of the stars for the what promises to be one of the deepest Capalaba Cups ever.
Yeah, absolutely. It's if all the greyhounds that are saying are going up there do go up there, it's going to be a very, very hot series. But yeah, we saw him trial at Hillsville before he won the Hillsville Cup, and like he didn't smash the clock. He did perform very well. So we do know that he will gradually improve the more he sees of Capalaba. So I'm sure if he had that little cut on his foot, which probably did hinder him a little bit, if he does improve, we know how good he is, and he's going to be a big player in that series, no doubt.
Absolutely. All right, that brings us to our one and only guest for this evening. An important bloke too, just quietly. Of course, the Phoenix slot holders were released last week. And the Media and Marketing Manager, geez, that's a lofty title, Smitty. Corey Smith joins us. How are you, mate?
I like to tell people I'm the jack of all trades, master of none, as you know, Wiz. So, Media and Marketing Manager, I'm not sure about that one, but we have a bit of fun. And as you said, Phoenix slot holders have been announced. We couldn't be more excited here at the MGRA. Yeah, absolutely. And we did, of course, we mentioned them on last week's show. And just for those that missed it or haven't seen it, Tabcorp, the Zipping and Keeping Syndicate, which is basically Marty Hallinan and Shane Stiff. Our favourite here on the pen is clearly the people of Peter Sadler Removals and Logistics for all your logistics and removal needs. Racing Queensland, SEN, RSN Sportsbet and Ned. So there they are, the 8 in total, Smitty. As we said here on last week's show, the one that catches your eye is the people of Peter Sadler Removals and Logistics. Can you give us a bit of background about Pete? Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one. Obviously, Peter Sadler owns a removals and logistics company, and he's done it in a bit of a different way. They've never really been involved in greyhound racing, but it's certainly an exciting concept. They're going to hold their Christmas party. So December 17th is obviously the Phoenix. So they're going to have their work Christmas party here, and all their staff members are going to have a share in a dog. So I dare say most of them wouldn't have been involved in greyhound racing at all. So bringing along about 90 odd people and giving them all a share in a greyhound will be really exciting. Obviously, they've got to negotiate their slot, and they'll have to find a greyhound that they hope can win it. But I dare say if they win it, there'll be rowdy scenes here from the people of the Peter Sadler Removal and Logistics Company.
I might have to jump onto another bandwagon. I've done that a couple of times already this year. Now, Corey, we saw how extraordinary the Phoenix was last year. Just talk us about how much popularity and how much interest there was from people out there in regards to gaining a slot in this year's running.
Yeah, look, the slots, we didn't quite get as many applications as we thought we would. We obviously clearly got the 8, and we were very, very happy with the selections that we got. But the initial interest was off the charts. There was so many people that were excited and came up with all these concepts, and so many people are really wanting to get involved next year or the year after and those sorts of things, and have already started planning for next year. So it is really an exciting concept. We're really pleased to see the level of applications that we got this year, and hopefully it just continues to get bigger and better. And that's the aim of the Phoenix, to try and bring it to new audiences and to bring in different sort of applicants. Obviously, we got 4 existing applicants from last year that got a slot again, and 4 new ones. So hopefully we can keep rotating through them and getting some really, really good applicants and doing some good things for the sport.
And Smithy, one of the best parts about the Phoenix is the talkability of the series, and especially from a very long way out. We heard David Smith speak after the win of Super Australia and allude to his interest in maybe being a part of the race. Think there's danger or I guess a bit of too much excitement at times of slot holders jumping the gun, and there's a lot more time to go, but clearly you've got to get in early because they're going to go quite quickly.
Yeah, exactly right. There's so many different ways you can do it, and I was actually really excited to see David Smith put his hand in the ring with Super Australia there. Obviously, we know what she can do over further, but she's also very well performed over a 500, and she's very quick early as a front running stayer. So you never know, she could get a slot, but that is the most exciting thing, I think, is the slot. How they negotiate that. So last year, Wow She's Fast actually only debuted around this time, and I think from memory, Sportsbet were probably the first people to lock in someone, and that was with Wow She's Fast, and they were obviously successful there. So it could be a greyhound that hasn't even debuted yet. It could be one that's proven like Wow She's Fast or a She's a Pearl, and could get the chocolates as well. So you just never know. There's so many different ways that you can go about it, and as you said, the talkability that comes with that is just awesome. So fingers crossed we get a really nice field, which I'm sure we will for $1 million race.
We saw last year one of the key drivers for the club, Smithy, was to get a lot of people on course and make it a great night out, and being there was a great night. The weather was perfect. There was good atmosphere, electricity. Talk us through this year's plans and what people are going to expect if they're keen to not only go to the Phoenix being Victorians, but if they want to come from interstate and experience it all.
Yeah, I'd certainly recommend that you come out. There's so many people on course that have been coming to greyhounds throughout their whole life, and they just said the atmosphere was the best they've seen last year. And that was coming from a time where probably 6 weeks beforehand, we didn't have anyone at the Top Gun. So we didn't know whether we would have a Phoenix event. We kind of scrambled and put it all together, and it came together really well. We've had a bit more of a lead-in time. We know exactly what we're going to be able to do, and tickets will be going on sale in the next few weeks. So fingers crossed we get a nice full crowd. We're hoping for probably over 4,000 people here, which has been a few years since we've been able to do that, but I think it'll be a full house and it'll be very exciting, and the atmosphere is not one to be missed, that's for sure.
No, absolutely not. Look, I was fortunate enough to be there for last year's running, and the team behind Wow She's Fast absolutely made the night. There's no question about it. They might be a rival betting company to ours, but wow, they made some noise and helped make the night. Mate, just one question before you go. Just the shape of the series this year. As an observer watching from afar last year, I thought one of the things that detracted from it was there were too many runoffs. Was there a conscientious decision this year to maybe go with slot holders who were going to get into that subterfuge and the intrigue of selecting dogs rather than having runoffs to try and decide who'd go round?
Yeah, the selection process was still done by an independent panel, so ultimately it was up to them. But I think everyone agreed that there was too many race series. It was a little bit hard to kind of keep track, and the more exciting things about the Phoenix is probably the slot negotiation. So with more slot negotiation processes this year, I think it increases the talkability and increases the popularity, and hopefully brings more people to the sport as well. So that's basically the aim of the Phoenix, and I think we can do that. So fingers crossed it all goes well. But I think with the mix that we've got right now, and we definitely obviously have less lead-up races than what we had previously. So hopefully it's still as enjoyable, and the process is just as good.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be, mate. Look, I say without any bias whatsoever that you guys put on probably one of the best nights around the country, feature racing-wise, mate. So we look forward to getting down there, and all the best with the rest of the process.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
There's Corey Smith, Media and Marketing Manager. Just about running the joint there these days, it's got to be said. To get us to a break, our kennel keeper for this week, this was an outstanding debutant, greyhound by the name of Grand Oro, who records 29.79, knocking off a Meadows on the 21st of September. And if you've got, if you've got 5 or 10 minutes to go down the rabbit hole, just check out this boy's pedigree. Go back through the litany of outstanding greyhounds who have come from this line over the past 4 or 5 years.
The rear, this favourite Grandoro off the back is 6 clear from Scott Monster trying hard, followed further back by Tanamera and then Strawberry Sweet, but as they turn for home, Grandoro, the favourite, is absolutely going to hurdle in the first. Grandoro won it by 11 lengths.
Some of the big names in New South Wales will venture to the Gardens this Friday for heats of the Blacktop, including TAB $1 Million Chase finalists Zipping Kyrios and French Martini. Other contenders ventured to the track for a hit-out last Friday, including promising youngster Fascinate Trump, who brought up win 9 at start 23 for Nolene Holloway.
Funneletra Lad, Blazing Will is in third posse, followed by Dodo. They turn for home. Fascinate Trump is leading, and Fascinate Trump, home and hose, defeats home Letra Lad.
There's Fascinate Trump in 29.50 odd, winning at the Gardens over the weekend, and he goes around in one of the heats of the Blacktop. I went to write it down, Jacko. I wrote heat, but no number. There he is, heat number 4, box 2, drawn outside of Hold Me Up, who's particularly well drawn in box 1. Have you had a look ahead at those heats?
I had a quick glance earlier. I saw Zipping Kyrios come up with the inside draw in a pretty winnable race, but that heat you spoke of looks a hot heat. Hold Me Up, of course, drawn the inside.
Yeah.
The name eludes me, drawn off the track.
Yeah, Hold Me Up. Good Ibrox Wildfire, French Martini in that heat as well.
Very, very strong heat. And that run to the first turn with Fascinate Trump, Hold Me Up, French Martini carving across, it's going to be pretty chaotic, I would have thought.
It gets busy. It only takes them 4.8, 4.9 seconds to get there, Jacko. So, you've got to step out pretty quick. Let's get to the hot topic. The hot topic this week's more of a hot discussion point, I guess, and it's what have we learned from the first 5 runnings of the $1 Million Chase series, carnival, whatever you want to call it. It's not until you get a little bit of a sample size behind you, Jacko, that you can sort of stand back and maybe critique it a little bit. It's a series I obviously love. I think a lot of people get confused about the nature of the series. I've had this discussion with a few blokes, as you know, in our group chat. I think it's important to understand the genesis of the series, and the genesis of the series was that it was to basically put on to showcase these best greyhounds around the country. A lot of people make a lot of noise about the city qualifiers and maybe only first and second get through there, but the first 3 get home at the bush. It's my understanding, and maybe I interpreted it wrong, but at the start, my understanding was the city qualifiers were basically a last resort. It was there to entice you to go, to encourage you basically to go to the country and try and qualify that way. So in terms of what have we learned, what would we change, I thought there was just a couple of things. I'd limit the number of city qualifiers they are, so again, force people to go to the country and qualify that way. And then maybe the dogs that have made those country finals then get seeded with priority into the city qualifiers. You're not going to be able to be too hard and fast because there'll be dogs that might not be able to get involved in the series early because of injury or whatnot, so you don't want to punish them too much. And the other thing, this is more of a reflection on Saturday night. I think having the band in the middle just quite frankly didn't work. Everyone sort of said, why don't we just have this at the end? It was basically just made us wait an hour during the running of the night. And this is just a really small one. I don't know why we kicked off with a maiden consolation on our biggest night. I think that race would have been better kept for another meeting, whether that was Wednesday or elsewhere. But they'd be my couple of takeaways in any case, Jacko.
Yeah, I guess you make a good point with the country qualifiers. The thing that I guess I didn't like seeing from the country perspective was some of the tracks didn't even get enough for heats. They just had a straight run final, and I guess the argument can be made that there could be dogs that could go there and pretty much, in essence, get an easy kill. But firstly, the one thing I've learnt from the first $5 Million Chase carnivals, and we touched on it earlier, is to find a dog from Tasmania because they've got an outstanding record. But the other little question mark, I suppose, is I wasn't involved in the first 3 MDC carnivals, and I know they were in October on Everest weekend, and the last 2, of course, last year got postponed due to COVID, but this year run at the end of September. I'm just not 100% sure that's the right place for it. It's just competing with...
So you like the idea of having it earlier in the season coupled up with the egg?
Yeah, I really enjoyed when it was in May, because then you could get pretty much like a 2-month period where you had the Golden Easter egg into the $1 Million Chase, and it was kind of in a time slot where there was nothing else competing with it, whereas I feel like at the moment particularly on the weekend. We had the AFL Grand Final. You've got Spring Carnival horse racing in full swing, rugby league on, and I just feel like it got a little bit lost, and then being run at sort of 10:30 on a Saturday night after all that sport has occurred, like people are probably burned out a little bit.
Yeah.
So I feel like if it can find a time slot in May, the weather's still relatively decent there, but it's not competing with any other sort of sports. It might be a time slot that works perfectly for the $1 million chase, and then off the back of the Easter egg, and just make that like we're going to see in Melbourne through November and early December. Just make it one massive carnival here in Sydney.
Any observations from you, Patch?
Yeah, the timing one's an interesting one. I mean, I'm sure GRNSW as a body want to have things running all throughout the year. So VIEG, and I'm sure they got the 7:15 now that follows that, and the MDC, as big as it is, can go wherever it wants really, because it's going to dictate the whole calendar, given the significance of the series and what it is. So I don't mind the slot this time of year. I think for a long period of time, the August and September hasn't really had a lot following the Nationals, which sort of locks out a window there. And September, I think, notoriously has been a little bit quiet. Then we get into the Adelaide Cup. But I think the series itself has proven to be great talkability. It cuts through, and the sport needs inspirational races, as we know. And these sort of events are the ones where people look at each other, whether they're half fans or just casually interested, and think, how do we get a dog? And I'm sure you guys hear all these questions yourselves, and obviously how people get involved. The next step's a separate sort of conversation. But I think it's been presented really well. It cuts through the timing thing. You can argue just about for any race, but I think it's GRNSW have done a great job in promoting it and presenting it in the way that they want to, which has been first class.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I guess to summarise, we just want those country races to probably be a little bit more competitive, Jacko, so give them less options. I think trim up the number of tracks you can qualify at and reduce the city qualifiers that way, and we might see a bit more competitive racing in those country qualifiers. The Dog Diary, and the focus is here, there and everywhere this week. Of course, the Adelaide Cup heats come up on Thursday. We highlighted that all-in market there with Tab a bit earlier on. The Blacktop heats Friday, along with the Mandurah Cup heats. And, of course, Capalaba. Yeah, another nice show, wrapped up neatly in a bow. Footy season's over for you now, so I don't know, what happens on the weekends now?
NFL season's in full swing, 3 rounds in, so... although my team is not going to be there at
you support?
I'm a New England Patriots fan, so they won't be there come Super Bowl time or playoff time for that matter. So I'm just going to enjoy it for what it is this season. But yeah, I'm certainly going to miss the AFL and watching the Cats win every week. Yeah, no, absolutely. Patch, you'll have an opposite opinion with regards to the AFL, but what about you now? I guess your focus turns to the F1.
Yeah, it does. Good to see that back this weekend. It's a bit of a dull period before we get stuck into the cricket, which is sort of most people's second love. And I tell you what, Wiz, you huffed and puffed at the start of the show. I've come out of this pretty bruise-free. So if you've got anything left, I'm waiting for it.
No, I've got nothing left, but I was promised all sorts of, I think the theme song was going to open the show, but obviously that didn't happen. They didn't want to lay it on too thick for you, Patch. We understand that you're a little bit sensitive there after last week.
Yeah, well, before we close the show, I reckon, fittingly, Jacko, as a real sign of respect and congratulations for the Cats. You've got your scarf there. Can we get some sort of Kevin Sheedy wave as we close the show on the pan out?
No doubt we can. No doubt. There he is, waving the flag.
My pleasure, Patch. My pleasure.
For all the for all the Geelong Cats supporters, there you go. And the Sydney Swans fans, they can obviously please themselves for another year. And we'll see you back here next week.